When are you willing, or when will you take the first step to get into trying to determine why you are where you are, why you made the decision you made, why you allow certain things to happen? And so that laundry list of why goes on and on and on. And then the third word is the when, as I said. So then where you are today is indicative of where you were in the past. So if you live in the past, you'll stay in the past.
Absolutely.
So if you don't change your mentality, change your attitude, change your behavior, where you are today will keep you where you are. And then who is very important. The three letters in the alphabet, WHO and HOW, those are interchangeable. So who you are and how did you get to become who you are? So those are like kissing cousin. It's like heart and brain together, who and how. So when people ask, well, who am I? Then you ask, well, how did I become who I am? You understand? So then it goes back to the foundation of why again. So the Discover Your Why book became, for me, my lifelong journey that I give about my testimony, which at 18 years old, brutally raped, left on the side of a road. By the time I was 22, I had married my childhood sweetheart, was able to give birth to my desire, son and a daughter. But right after that, the doctor said, you can't have any more kids because I was so brutally, and they didn't understand why I was even able to bring to bear two children. But after that, because of a weak heart, at 22, then I had a total hysterectomy because of the rape and the brutality of it all. So this book was the why I am still here and why I have a testimony to help people understand that where you began is not where you will end if you search out your why. So my evangelistic, that you asked the question, is simply evangelizing the gospels of Jesus Christ to let people know that Jesus is real and that no matter how serious and how difficult it may seem to you, God is always there to answer because he said that I am the great I am. And if you submit yourself to God and say, God, I don't have the answer. That is the key. I don't have the answer. So what is the answer to this why that I am confronted with?
Okay, guys, we're back with more of It's Janice. I'm your host, Janice McLean-Deloach. We came back with Dr. Chaplain Evangelist Eve Taylor.
Yes.
We had to take a break because when we left off, you were talking about a hysterectomy and,
Yes.
and how you got there. So can we just talk a little bit more from that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was at the age of 18 and graduating from high school, my childhood sweetheart said, okay, you can go to college, but, men change their mind, and I was unaware of anything about birth control and any of that because my dad was a Baptist preacher, and so he didn't believe in sex outside of marriage. So when I married my childhood sweetheart and told him after we had before I had the first child, it was 8 months in, I remember specifically telling him that I had been raped. And then he rejected me, picked me up, all my little bags and big belly and everything, and took me to my sister's house. But the command of love is powerful. So before the birth of our son, 2 weeks before we was given birth, we were back together. And unfortunately today, God rest his soul, he passed away. But when I told him about the rape, he rejected me. He thought, well, you lost your virginity to another man. It was very hard for him. And so then we had my daughter. And then the doctor said, you cannot have any more kids because I was born with a congenital heart issue. So I didn't give birth to them naturally. I had C-sections. So on the hysterectomy side, to get back to that, when the doctor did the hysterectomy, of course, I didn't know anything.
Right.
I'm 22. This is early 70s, okay? So who tell you that? So when the doctor finally told me 6 months after what had happened to me, well, I then understood why my husband was saying, "You're not a woman anymore." And all of those things was very harsh.
This
So
is
I took a bottle of Valium, 12 milligram, 12 milligram, took 12 of those. And I didn't drink, but I was purpose that I heard them say, you don't mix alcohol with pills. So I took the pills and laid comatose. Doctor said, I would be brain dead. Do I look like I'm brain dead?
Oh my God, you are just.
So anyway, I got through that, and so another time. So 3 attempts, let me just say it this way, 3 attempts to take my life. And so when God has mission and purpose for you,
You are meant to be here.
listen,
Yeah.
God wrote my contract on my life. But the only thing that I didn't know, that I was going to be involved in canceling it. So when God says you can't cancel what I have created, I got it through my head. And I was very angry with God for some time. Like, why would you keep me here if I'm so mad with you? And I kept hearing Miles Monroe say, there's somebody out there one Sunday morning with a purpose. And I was listening, and I just started weeping and crying. And then I began to ask God, so what is my purpose since you're going to keep me here? And I was very vehement about it. What is this purpose? What is this purpose? And so as time goes on, we don't understand the journey that we're on. And you ask me, how can I be calm?
Oh my God, I'm just sitting here. This whole thing, I like to think that I've got it all together most days. Some days I don't know. I've never, your whole story is a testament to the power of God, the power of the will. You're beautiful.
Well, what happened is the rapist that raped me.
And that bothers me. Every time you say that.
Yeah. Every time I think about it, I was a young girl, 18 years old, my very first job, working at Flamingo Cafeteria in Miami, Florida. And this older man, I'm 18, he was at least in his early 40s. It was storming, Hurricane Cleo was coming. He said, I'll take you home. A bad decision could change your life. But I look at now my life, my testimony, and where God has brought me. We don't know the tragedy that will occur in your life that will make you like an oak tree later in life.
This is so true.
And so I had to forgive him. I left Miami one day, I thought I saw him, his facial expression, I can remember that. And when I thought I saw him, I packed my kids' bags, everything, and I left Miami as fast as I could leave. So then I relocated to Atlanta. And so after having forgiven myself, because I thought I did something wrong, I forgave him. And then I forgave my husband. And I began to talk to myself. I am greater than my problems. I am greater than the circumstances. I am greater than the tragedies, because my tragedies will not kill me. And I just began to every day just tell myself, I am greater than all of this. And I began to tell myself, laugh at your greater than.
But what made you just decide to start telling yourself that?
Because when pain becomes so unbearable, what else can you tell yourself? When your pain, imagine a toothache, a headache. Imagine any type of pain that you can have and then say, God, I just wish this pain would go away. My pain became something that I couldn't wish it away. So I simply then began to say, I'm going to walk through it. And I created a template for myself. If I'm in pain, I don't fight the pain, I go through the pain. So I began to think about, how do you go through pain? Pain is something that is like the Jordan River when God parted, okay? You either say, I'm going to cross over, or I'm going to stay here and endure. So when you allow the pain to become bigger than you can be over the pain, you'll stay there in pain. So I challenged myself.
Right.
My pain was not greater than my going through. So just metaphorically speaking, it's called self-talk. And after you tell yourself so much, because the more you meditate on it, the longer it stays in your fresh mind.
This is the book by Dr. Chaplain, Evangelist.
Yes.
I got it this time,
You
didn't I?
got it.
Eve Taylor. If people want to find out more about you, how to pick up a copy of this book, how do they do that?
Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Discover Your Wine. It is there. And one of the other things I want to fast forward after the rape, you know, when there are tragedies that occur in your life, after that, 2 years later, I suffered a massive heart attack because of the stress. I carried it so much. Going through the pain, I began to carry it so deeply within me that it caused me to have a massive heart attack. And the heart attack, the doctor said, I remember so vehemently in Miami, and all I heard that little machine is going deet, deet. And so I heard one Sunday morning the doctor come in. I heard him say to my family, she's lost the will to live. It's up to her now. And I had a visitation from God. And just like I'm sitting here with you.
I believe that.
It's like I remember it as like right now. Yesterday, this second, it was happening. The tip of my toes became hot. Then it moved down to the bottom of my heel. And then it's like my foot was in. It was like something was moving me through an MRI machine until it got to the top of my head. And then I opened my eyes seemingly, and I saw this visible, like silhouette, pure white cloud. It looked like in the figure of a person, and put his hands on the tip of my toes and said, you will live, you will not die, you have purpose, and you will fulfill it. So when you say going through the pain, at that particular time, I still heard the deet deet, and it was like I opened my eyes and I felt great, and I was trying to think, my family was there, and so the doctors came in and said, oh, she's awake, she's awake. And 2 days later, I was going home. And so I just said, all right, God. So from that point, you know, I didn't stay on the trike always. Please don't let me make you think that, you know, you get on the bicycle, you fall off, you break.
That's right.
You break something, you bruise something, but you come back. So, but over my life journey of being involved in helping people, so when I moved to Atlanta, I got involved in the Atlanta Rape Crisis Center to help other women. Because first thing a police will ask, where were you? What were you doing? And that is one of the most horrible statements you can put to somebody.
Right, yeah.
To say.
I don't know, but I've heard some of those stories.
Then family member want to know, well, what were you wearing and why were you there? So you go through the rejectionist state. And so I just decided in my life, there will never be anything greater or bigger than Jesus Christ, because with Jesus, I can get through anything. And that is how I began to teach myself on the greater power. And the two passages of Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, and my Lord's Prayer. Those are the two things daily, 24/7. When my eyes would open, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He should make me to lie down in green pastures. And so, you know, it's how you decide. Everybody have to make a decision for themselves.
You know, I'm going to tell you, and we're going to have to go to break because we got a few other people we need to cover. But I'm so glad, Dr. Taylor, that you waited for me. We had some other interviews, and we were having a conversation, and we almost missed out on this interview. And you know, I have done so many interviews over 13 years, always about small business and entrepreneurship. Always have an author that we profile. And this is my one show in 13 years of doing this that this has ever touched me to a point where I actually had to stop. But you know, I mention this because we are at the God's You Conference. I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Diane Eubanks, Dr. Willis Eubanks, and Sudan Eubanks, you little doll you.
Yes.
because I almost didn't make the conference today. And here's the funny thing, this is why I know that God has purpose for you. It was meant for me and you to talk.
Yes.
I missed Dr. Taylor yesterday. We were here covering this same conference yesterday in the evening. I was sitting right in the room with her. She was right in the room with me. Didn't know each other. Didn't even know we were going to be doing this interview today. But I took a cover photo of this book yesterday. And again, I just took the book, the cover of the book, and the reason why, discover your why. Why? But when I sit here and I listen to, there are a lot of people who know that I'm very interested in civil rights and human rights. It's something that I do, as well as business. Business, I think, my first word probably out of the womb was small business or entrepreneurship. But I'm very passionate about civil rights and human rights, and I'm very passionate about women's issues and what happens to our mothers and our grandmothers and our daughters. And now I have a daughter of my own, and there are topics and conversations that normally I probably would have not even thought about. But when I see I do a lot of volunteer work.
Yes.
I hear the stories, and for some reason, I think this is a new journey that God is sending me on. I broke down like a baby just now. We need to hear your story. I don't know how you sit here. You have that courage and that will. I couldn't even, this is your story, and it bothers me. So I will tell you today, you call me, whatever you want me to do on your behalf for this kind of work, if I have the time, if I can make it, I promise you I will be there. I will do that for you. Okay.
Hi, and welcome back to It's Janice. I'm your host, Janice McLean Deloach. We are at the God's You Women's Empowerment and Health Conference. This is put on every year by the Global Ovaday Seminary and University. And I have the pleasure and the honor of being joined today by Chaplain Dr. Evangelist, yay, Eve Taylor. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. And we're laughing because I kept trying to get that sentence right. But all of those are awesome titles, and I'm glad I got it right. But would you just tell us a little bit about what an evangelist is and a chaplain and how you became and why you're here today with God's You?
All right. So let me just start with the God You. I became a chaplain as of certified last night, which I graduated. I got involved 30 days ago, was rushed through the process so that I could graduate. And what the role of a chaplain is, in particular for me,